Welcome back. I'm Majid and this is Financial Crime Awareness Hub. This video may be a bit longer than usual, but I'm sure it will clarify some of the concepts that we may see during the CAMS exam. So I would humbly request that if you could subscribe to the channel so that whenever there's any new content that I'm going to push in the future, you will receive the notification for the same. So today, as I promised last time, what we're going to cover is the cyber-enabled financial crime, and I want to open with the number that probably should worry every compliance individual and those who are managing the frauds in their organizations. And as we know that technology has evolved also a lot, so the hackers sometimes they are doing many bad things. So a hacker steal $50 million. That part takes minutes, right? So you see, but stealing money digitally and laundering it successfully are two completely different things. The theft is the headline. The laundering is where AML obligations actually apply, and it is where most compliance trainings probably, I would say, stops, and it doesn't go many granular details. So by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how cyber-enabled crime works and how the stolen money then gets cleaned, and the one exam question pattern that this typology is known for. So let's dive into that. So I'm going to give you one scenario. Just listen, don't try to label it anything yet. I'll read through it once completely and then we'll come back to it. So a finance manager receives an email from her CEO, same name, same writing style, same signature, which says, I need you to write $2.4 million to a new supplier today. It's urgent. I'm in a meeting and can't take calls right now. So she writes the funds, she wires the funds. 20 minutes later, the real CEO replies to her morning email asking about lunch. By then, the $2.4 million has already moved through 4 different accounts in 3 countries. The email was never from the CEO at all. Okay, so hold the story in your head. 3 questions before we go through. What made this email convincing enough to act on? How does $2.4 million move through 4 accounts in 20 minutes? And what crime is this exactly? And who investigates it? So, we are going to answer all these 3 questions, but first you need to understand what cyber-enabled crime actually is, because the definition itself is broader than most people sometimes expect. Let's see it in the next screen. Let me give you the official definition because it sets up everything else in this video. FinCEN, that's the definition, the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, defines cyber-enabled crime as illegal activities carried out or facilitated by electronic systems and devices such as networks and computers. This includes but not limited to fraud, identity theft, and other crimes. There are 3 things that we need to look here. Number 1, the critical link. Cyber-enabled crimes use technologies to gain access to funds, but they still, must launder these ill-gotten funds. The crime is digital. The laundering challenge underneath it is identical to any other typology you have studied in this series. How broad it is? You see, hacking, account takeover, compromised accounts, payment card fraud, fraudulent wire transfers, and this study guide generally is quite direct about it. Given how much of life runs through electronic systems today, it would be difficult to find a crime that is not cyber enabled in some way. So why this matters? There's a direct relationship between cyber enabled crime, money laundering, and terrorist financing. Terrorists and money launderers use many of the same techniques to conceal funds. This is not a niche typology. It intersects with almost everything else in the domain A. Let's see it in the next screen for further details. So if a cyber-enabled crime is this broad, where do you even start looking for it? This study guide gives you one anchor point, and I want you to remember this above everything else in this video. Okay, the foundation of all cyber-enabled crime is the trust. Trust is trust is really necessary to gain confidence of the target. Without it, none of the rest of the schemes works. No matter how sophisticated the technology, the criminal still needs the target to believe something false. There are 3 methods cyber criminals use to build that trust, and you will see all 3 in our finance manager scenario in a moment. Number 1, social engineering, which is manipulating a person psychologically, urgency, authority, fear, so they act before they think, right? So this is what made our finance manager example to move the funds in 20 minutes, right, instead of picking up the phone and verifying that first. And nowadays many I'm sure almost every one of us had at least received one call where they probably say that I'm calling from this government authority and your debit card is not working or blocked, or maybe you had a fraudulent attempt and all, and then they send OTP and all these. So this is all social engineering things. Okay. Then impersonation. So phishing and spoofing. The email looked like it came from the CEO. Same name, same writing style, same signature. Impersonation is the delivery mechanism that earns the initial trust. Then comes malicious softwares. So malware and ransomware installed on the target system, sometimes to steal data directly, sometimes to hold systems hostage until a ransom is paid. These 3 methods are rarely used alone. Cyber criminals combine them depending on the intended outcome, and in our scenario you can already spot 2 of the 3 at work. Let's see it further in the next screens. Right, so now let's go back to our scenario. Okay, same story, but now every piece has a certain name that we're gonna go and say that what it belongs to. So an email from her CEO, same name, same writing style, same signature. So that's a spoofing and impersonation. The email address or display name is faked to appear legitimate. This is the exact impersonation method we just covered, the technique that earns initial trust before anything else happens. Then it's urgent, time in a meeting, and can take calls. That's social engineering. Urgency and unavailability are deliberately combined. The target has no time to verify and no way to call back and check. That manufactured pressure in the entire tech. Not a side details, the core mechanism. By then, you see 2.4 million had moved through 4 accounts in 3 countries. That's rapid layering. Cyber-enabled crime occurs rapidly through the internet, and the proceeds move just as rapidly through many accounts across many institutions before anyone has time to actually react. So one scenario, both trust-building techniques and the laundering speed, all in one continuous story. So now that you can see how trust gets built and exploited, let me widen the scope. Our scenario was business email compromise specifically, but the study guide is clear that cyber-enabled crime covers far more ground than just business email compromise. Examples of cyber-enabled crime in the study guide's own words are as broad as the imagination. It would be difficult to find a cyber crime that was not cyber enabled in some way. So hacking, if you see hacking and these relevant attempts of hacking, accounts takeover, payment card frauds, payments and wire transfers, exactly what happened to our finance manager example. Then malware and ransomware deployment and business email compromise itself, so often shortened to BEC, which is the specific typology in our case represents. So one more thing to anchor or remember is that the criminal goal is always one of the 4 outcomes. Disrupt networks, fraudulently obtained funds, extort or for ransom, or commit identity theft. So every example you just heard maps to one of those 4. So before we proceed further, let's look at a couple of the definition, and some we have already gone through. Social engineering, this is the foundation of almost every cyber attack. No hacking, no code, just a criminal manipulating a human being into trust them. into trusting them. They exploit, psychologically, not technologically. Phishing, a fraudulent message, usually an email, designed to get you to click on a link, enter your credentials, or reveal sensitive information. You think you are talking to your bank, but you're not. Spoofing is like disguising a communication to look like it's coming from someone you trust. A fake email domain, a cloned website, a caller ID that shows your CEO name. Then comes malware, malicious software. It gets into your system and causes damage, steals data, or creates a backdoor for the criminal to walk through later. So viruses, worms, spyware, all of these are malware. Ransomware, it's a specific type of malware that locks you out from your own systems. You want access, but you have to pay. Financial institutions are a primary target because the pressure to restore operations is enormous. And then the same BEC, this is one that connects everything. A criminal impersonates a trusted person like a CEO, supplier, or a regulator, and issues fraudulent wire instructions like 20 minutes or millions are gone in that. So the money is stolen. $2.4 million are gone, taken in minutes through a fake email. But here's the part most compliance training probably skips, but quickly. Let me try to sum it up in a probably easier way. Let's see it. So, stealing money digitally and laundering, as we said it successfully, are two completely different problems. Cleaning the funds so they can actually be spent without being tracked back to the crime is where AML obligations apply directly, and it is exactly as structured as any other laundering typology you have learned so far. Number one is placement, where stolen funds land in a mule account or compromised accounts, often opened using stolen identities, controlled by people who may not even realize they are part of the scheme. Then comes layering. It's a rapid transfer across multiple accounts, multiple institutions, multiple countries, all within hours or minutes. In our scenario, this exactly happened within those 20 minutes. So speed itself is the laundering technique. Then comes integration, where funds converted into cryptocurrencies, prepaid cards, or wired to jurisdictions with weak cooperation, then withdrawn or spent as if they were always legitimate. This is why cyber-enabled and money laundering are inseparable in AML trainings. One always probably follows the other, and the speed of the follow-through is what makes this particular topology so difficult to stop in time. So before we continue, let's see it one example. One statistics I want you to remember, because it explains why speed matters so much in these things. There was a FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center has reported business email compromise losses exceeding $50 billion globally since tracking began. Most victims never recover those funds because by the time fraud is detected, the money has already been layered across multiple jurisdictions. Before I tell you why recovery is so rare, what do you think that makes business email compromise funds so hard to trace back? Take a second and let's see what's your observations are. So what actually makes it hard is the speed combined with the jurisdictional fragmentations. Funds move through 3 to 4 countries within hours, and by the time one bank files a report, the money has already left that next institution. No single financial institution unit sees the whole picture in time. That is exactly what happened to our case also. $2.4 million are gone, and it went to 4 accounts, 3 different countries in 20 minutes. The system was always going to be one step behind in such scenarios. Alright, so let's see now 6 red flags. These are the signals compliance teams, I would say, need to catch before the funds disappear. Alright, so the first one, urgent unverifiable payment request. fire instructions citing extreme urgency, executives people unavailability, or a request to bypass the normal approval channel. So which our scenario had all the three in a single instance. Number two, last minute changes to payment details. Established supplier suddenly changing bank account details, especially via email rather than a verified channel. Number three, rapid multi-jurisdictional transfers. So funds moving through several accounts and countries within hours, far faster than typical legitimate business activity. Then we have new accounts immediately receiving large sums, like such as mule accounts often show no transaction history before suddenly receiving and forwarding large amounts. Number five is the mismatched sender details. So email domain nearly identical to a legitimate one. One character here and there different is a classic spoofing signature. Number six, conversion to crypto or prepaid instruments, like rapid conversion of stolen funds into cryptocurrency or prepaid cards to break the traceable trail. Let's look at it when it comes to us in compliance. What do we do next then? Alright, so if I'll go back to our BEC example, but what do you actually do when you end up in such a situation? So first, I would say the alert fires. Your transaction monitoring system flags an urgent high value wire to a new beneficiary following an email instruction change. Your first move is simple. You do not approve it, you pause, you hold it on. Then the next thing, you investigate, pull the original account mandate, check whether that instruction change arrived and from what email domain. Was a callback verification done? Cross-reference that beneficiary. Has this account ever sent money here before or not? Then call the client directly on a number you already have. Generally, this sometimes in the relationship managers and all, their role also, they should ideally call. Depending on the business model, maybe sometimes you have the small and all. Generally, compliance they don't call. I would say relationship managers call and they verify callback was performed and they signify their confirmation. Okay, so it's generally not, I would say, compliance role, but yes, these are the ways we can cope up with such problems. The third thing, if that callback fails or the client tells you they sent nothing, you freeze the payment, escalate your request to either to the management, then that is could be depending again on the size of the organization, then directly to MLR or to the management within your seniors, and then open up an STR, because once that money moves through the first hub, recovery becomes almost impossible. So this is a difference between you recognizing a red flag and acting on one. So, and that actually I would say distinction which actually separates us as in compliance. We need to be very careful, someone who don't simply just follow a tick box approach. Then we have Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. Okay, not the one that usually it was the cartoons. So this is where I want you to push your thinking beyond typology, because understanding how cybercrime happens is only half of the job. The other half is understanding what regulators are doing about it, and that's bring this DORA concept that was also announced lately. It's an EU regulation that came into full force in January 2025. It applies to every financial institution operating in EU. Okay, so banks, PSPs or payment firms, investment firms, all of them. The goal is straightforward. If criminal exploits digital vulnerabilities to launder money, close those vulnerabilities before they become the entry points for them. So DORA does this across 5 domains. One is the ICT management, which is the information and communication technology. So every institution must have a robust control system with a defined risk tolerance level, not informal, documented and approved at a management level. Then we have incident reporting. If incidents, cyber incident occur, you report it immediately. Okay. to the competent authority, definitely, and not sitting on it. Then we have resilience testing yearly, similar to your BCP testings and all. You have the vulnerability assessments for all institutions, and every 3 years threat-led penetration testing, where an external team actively tries to break in to find weaknesses before a criminal does. Then we have third-party risk, and this one is I would say most important. If your sanctions screening system or your transaction monitoring tool is run by a third-party vendor, you are still responsible for its resilience. So this DORA Act says, do your due diligence before you sign the contract, monitor them continuously, and have an exit strategy if they fail. Then we have information sharing. So institutions are encouraged to share threat intelligence with each other, because if one bank detects a new attack pattern, every other bank benefits from knowing about it. So our study guides makes the AML connection explicitly clear, as if like by meeting DORA's requirement, financial institutions reduce the risk that criminal exploit digital vulnerabilities to move dirty money through their accounts. So that is the thread from cyber crime all the way to the money laundering and all the way to regulation, and that thread is what our exams, CAMS exam, actually expect us to understand all these 5 items within this act. Now let's look at the question. An employee receives an email appearing to be from the CFO, urgently requesting an immediate wire transfer to a new vendor account, with instructions to bypass the usual dual approval process due to time sensitivity. Which 2 cyber-enabled crime techniques are most clearly present in this scenario? Option A, ransomware deployment. Option B, social engineering. Option C, spoofing and impersonation. Option D, identify theft of the customer. Option E, malware. You can just pause your video and think of the options that are correct, and then we'll discuss why these options are correct. So option B and C are correct. Let's understand why B and C is correct. Let's look at the wrong ones. Ransomware. So no systems are described as locked or held hostage. So nothing in this scenario indicates malware was deployed at any point in time. Option D is also wrong, but I would say it's probably a quick trap within the question, because these are psychometric exams and it's a game of words. So this scenario is business email compromise, targeting an employee, not theft of the customer's identity. The trap is mixing up whose identity is actually being misused. The CFO identity was impersonated, not customer's identity is stolen. Option E, malware installation, is also wrong. Nothing in this scenario described software being installed on any system. The attack is purely social and email based, no technical compromise required here. Option B is correct. The urgency and the pressure to bypass dual approval is a I would say textbook social engineering tactic. Manipulating the target psychologically so they act before they verify. Exactly what happened 20 minutes before the real CFO ever replied. Option C is correct, which is a spoofing. The email appears to be from the CFO, but it is not. That is the impersonation of one of the 3 named methods the study guides listed directly under the cyber-enabled crime. So before we close, I would say 4 things to take away from this video. First, cyber-enabled crime is illegal activity carried out or facilitated by electronic systems. Cyber criminals still, must launder what they steal. It is difficult to find a crime today that is not cyber-enabled in some way. Second, know the 3 trust-building methods. Okay. First is social engineering, which is psychological manipulation, impersonation, phishing, and spoofing. Okay. Then malware, malicious software, which is malware and ransomware. These are rarely used alone. Third, know the laundering chain that follows every cyber theft. Placement through mule accounts and compromised accounts, layering through rapid multi-jurisdiction transfers, integration through crypto, prepaid cards, and weak cooperation jurisdictions. Fourth, know the red flags such as urgent, unverifiable payments request, last-minute changes to the payment details, rapid transfers across several countries within hours. Each one was present in our questions or in our finance manager story, right? Then the next thing that what we have is, let's look at the scenario what happened again. So if we'll go back, you see that where we started, what actually had happened and what should have stopped. So what happened is that a spoofed email created false trust, manufactured urgency, removed the time to verify. Everything will collapse if they won't get the payment, right? So the instructions to bypass dual approval requirement, the one control that could have stopped it. The funds were gone before anyone could react. So what should have stopped it? A call back to a verified phone number. In your bank records, you have the registered mobile number. So you always call on the registered mobile number to verify the authenticity of the payment. So it's like, not a reply to the same email thread before releasing any large or unusual payments. Dual approval exists precisely for moments when one person is being pressured to act alone. That control was bypassed by design. This is exactly why it is a red flag to watch for. Last but not the least, we are done with this video. In the next video, I'm planning to cover shell companies concept. I hope this video had helped in some of the ways in clarifying some of the concepts. If there is any feedback, please feel free to drop your comments and I'll surely take into consideration. As always, just to remind you, on advicecubeconsulting.com, we have different certifications such as CAMS, CGSS, CFE. CFE also, we have the latest now questions uploaded over there. If you like the video, please do subscribe. And we also support for the notes for the CAMS exam and all other certifications, so that all our working professionals, those who are busy in their schedules, they can read those specific crisp notes to gain the knowledge very quickly rather than going through a huge number of pages. And then we have the e-learning course, which has a bot trained on the specific content of the exam. So anytime, you don't need a trainer, you just put your questions and you get your answer right away. See you in the next video. Thank you so much for your time.